welcome. Hi, I'm Ed Salick, and we're doing actually our second show on boater safety. And with us was my co-host today, Alan Cronheim. Alan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where are you from in New Jersey now?
I'm with the Coast Guard Auxiliary from Flotilla 7-9, 5th Northern Region. Where we cover our area of responsibility is pretty much from Seaside Heights, New Jersey, down to Tuckerton, New Jersey. It's about a 14-mile bay area.
All right. And also, Don Heap. Don, tell us where you're the current
commander. I'm the commander of the Staten Island Sail and Power Squadron. This Power Squadron has been in existence for 103 years. It was started in 1914, and it's been building all these years, and Staten Island Power Squadron came into effect in 1934. And so we've been around for a number of years, teaching on Staten Island, safe boating to the public, and that's what we do.
And Dennis, introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, Dennis Genovese, I'm with the Power Squadron. I'm the educational officer for Staten Island Power Squadron. I coordinate all the teaching classes and scheduling.
Okay. Chris?
Hi, my name is Christina DeMeo. I'm a past commander of Staten Island Sail and Power Squadron, and I am currently serving as the secretary on the bridge.
All right.
I'm Jim DeMeo. I'm past commander of Staten Island Power Squadron also, and I help teach the boating class, the safe boating class, and the seamanship class, plus other things I do for the squadron, notifying people.
Now, I got a silly question, but you'll have to bear with me. This will be on the air in November, and we'll probably run it in November and December. Now that the boating season is over, why would we want to do this program now?
Well, you want to do it now so that you make the public aware that the next boating season starts actually at the January boat show. The New York Boat Show is the first premier boat show in the United States, and that starts in January, and it whets their appetite to take courses. So we are doing this so that you are aware that, yes, you can buy a boat, but it doesn't make it safe for you to operate. All they're going to say is this lever pushes it forward, you move forward, you turn the steering wheel left, turn it right, and you pull it back and it stops. There's more to boating than that.
Right. Now, are you required to have some sort of a certificate before you take that boat out?
No, you're not.
Not really. It's good to have, absolutely good to have, either from the Coast Guard or from the Power Squadron, the boating certificate. Right now, New York is just getting into eventually requiring the certificate. New Jersey, you can speak.
We do require it in New Jersey.
Right. It is required in New Jersey.
Yes.
Yes.
And the operator 16 years or older must have the New Jersey Safety Boating Certificate to operate the vessel.
Right.
I always said in boating, it's 50% on the water, and with all of us here, 50% in the classroom. There's a lot to learn about safe boating. There really is.
I would well imagine. I could see you brought a lot of your.
Just equipment.
I can emphasize that for one moment. These are all articles from the Staten Island Advance from the last maybe 8 or 9 years of boating accidents that have happened in and around Staten Island, New York Bay, the Lower Bay, and this one is one from
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Boating accident. Person launching their boat, and boat and the car went down the ramp while they were launching it. So this happens all the time, and a lot of these, as I mentioned, most of these are daytime boating accidents, not nighttime. So it's very important to make people aware of boating safety.
Okay. Now, when you say going on a ramp, how many of those locations do you have where you go down a ramp? So that's for a vessel that is not tied up on a
trailer boat, right? On a trailer. On Staten Island, I think we maybe have 2 or 3.
We have.
There's one in Great Kills.
That's the public boat ramp.
Right.
You have Princess Bay has a launch ramp, and I believe that's all.
Yeah.
For a boat on a trailer, you have the kayakers. They can walk down to the beach and launch from the beach. Many of the kayakers are out of Fort Wadsworth.
Right.
So they're very active down there. There's a couple of clubs down there, and we have a couple of clubs out of Great Hills Harbor.
Okay. Now, kayakers do separate training than this, or the same?
No, basically it would be the same training because when you go out, you need to be able to handle situations that come to you. You're the person that has to prevent the accident. That's the bottom line.
Okay, now, I noticed in your title, it's the Sail and Power Squadron. Is there any difference in sailing?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Sailing is a totally different animal. You have to depend on the wind. Dennis can talk about that more because he's a sailboater.
I sailed for 40 years. Yeah. Now I'm a power boater now, but no, it's true. It's a different situation because you're depending on the wind. You have a smaller auxiliary engine, not like a power boat. You have to. There's a lot of anticipation with sailing to make sure you get out of the way. Avoid bigger boats and so forth. So it is different. It is.
Okay.
So,
If I may,
Okay, jump in,
the
please.
Power Squadron actually got their name. They were founded in the Boston Yacht Club in 1912. There was a new thing was internal combustion engines in boats, and the Boston Yacht Club were out with their sailboats, and the storm came up, and a lot of the boats got disabled, and the power boats went out and rescued all the sailboaters, and that's what they became, the Power Squadron. They were incorporated in New York, the New York Yacht Club right here in 1914, and that's how we get the name the Power Squadron. But lately, we have a lot of sailboaters now too, so that's when we changed our name a few years ago to Sail and Power Squadron, include everybody.
Alan, what is the relationship with the Power Squadrons in New York and New Jersey and the Coast Guard?
Well, we kind of work side by side. We do, many of our functions mirror each other. The auxiliary also provides the safe boating classes for the public, public education, civic events. We'll set up tables, provide safety information, hand out some personal flotation devices or life jackets to people, and advise them, of the local waters, what to be careful of, and general safety rules. And so we kind of mirror what this Power Squadron does.
Very good.
If I may interject,
Please.
What the Coast Guard auxiliary did, they had a program on the West Coast that was brought over to the East Coast, and at Nichols Marina, they installed a Kids Don't Float kiosk. And I was invited as commander of the Power Squadron to go and be there for the dedication. And it was the first time I ever saw that. And the Coast Guard Auxiliary showed me that this is a great idea. And so since then, Staten Island Power Squadron has been we've put up 3 kiosks in different marinas and waterfront areas. But the Coast Guard Auxiliary is very, very
Now,
positive.
you use the phrase "kids don't float." Exactly what is that?
What it is, it's a loaner program that on it we have infant life preservers, preservers for children from 30 pounds to 50 pounds, children's life preservers from 50 to 90, and then adult. And what you do is, if you need a child, anytime he goes on a dock or along the waterfront, he must, New York State law says you must wear a life preserver if you're 13 and under. So this makes it available to the parents and the grandparents. They're taking their kids or grandparents down for a nice day at the sea, and what they do is I forgot a life preserver. Well, so the life preserver's there. They come over, they take one off, and they fit it to the child, and then they go out and they borrow it for the entire day. Or I had one where a person came back to me and said, well, we we kept it for a week. We went up the Hudson River, up to Saugerties, and Saugerties saw it, the marina up there, and the people said, "Where did you get that?" And they said, "Oh, that's great." So they're going to put one up next year.
My whole finances this because obviously you have to have a lot of equipment on it.
Staten Island Power Squadron is the we go out and we build, we buy the lumber and stuff. Jim and I have built 3 of them, and then we. During the winter months, you'll notice that Cabela is I buy them when they're on sale.
Okay. Yeah.
But the Coast Guard Auxiliary came up with a very great idea that they go to Home Depot.
That's correct. We have 9 sheds in our area of responsibility right now, and we dedicate at least 1 or 2 per year to new locations. And we've been fortunate enough. We approached either Home Depot or the Lowe's with our blueprints and our design, and they actually built it and donated it to us. And then we'll put a donated by sign on
That's nice.
on the
That's very
facilities,
nice.
recognizing their
Yeah.
civic duties.
And I should emphasize that everyone here is a volunteer.
Right.
No one's on salary or anything like that.
Exactly, right.
Which is a great thing. It's
Volunteerism is dying.
Yeah, exactly. And we need that to keep coming.
If I may interrupt, we're talking about life preservers. It's not only for humans, but also for animals. We have a 14-pound terrier mix, and Augie has his life preserver that we put on him. So you have to be aware you're keeping your pets safe also.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Do many people go out with their pets on board?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's true.
They're not trying to throw them overboard
That's
or anything.
family. No, it's closer family than you'd believe.
Yeah.
We got a dog and a cat that's. They know when it's dinner time, that's for sure.
Yes.
I have a dog that knows when it's time to go to the boat. I don't know how he knows it, but he plops himself out the back door waiting for us to go out, and he'll sit there and wait to take him on the boat. He just loves the boat.
My dog is the same way. She knows I go down to the club at a certain time, and she'll sit there just looking at me. You're not getting me out the door.
Let's talk about general thing. What are the first things to check before going boating? And it's open to anyone who wants it.
I'll take that. Well, when I'm getting ready to go out for the night before, I watch the TV and I watch the news and I check the weather. Weather is very important to a boater, especially the wind like we have going on. It can be a nightmare out there. So I'll check the TV, see what the weather forecast is for the next day. If the weatherman's saying breezy out, I'm probably going to stay at the dock or do something else. In the morning when I get up, I'll put the radio on. Have the weather forecast on the 8s and the 10s. On the AM radio station, and on the VHF radio, you can buy one for your home. You have one on your boat. They'll give you the weather forecast for the day, and the phone apps. There's phone apps that give you the weather, the marine forecast, and everything. They're really great. When you start to get a wind, they start forecasting over 20 miles an hour. That's usually small craft advisories are up. And you don't want to be out there when the waves are kicking up because, if you're a fisherman like me, now you're fighting the boat more than you're fighting the fish. So it's, it could be an uncomfortable day, and it can ruin it. So, but if it's a nice day, you want to go out and enjoy yourself, and you want to be safe out there. So but you have to keep your eye on the weather. It can be during the day, it could be a beautiful day, and all of a sudden you'll see the clouds start to build up. And if you see them tower up, a thunderstorm is coming. So you want to, stay close to home, stay close to the harbor, where you can have safe, be safe. Also, you'll get a squall coming in. A cold front comes in. Usually is heavy winds, heavy rain. You can have a 60-mile-an-hour wind that'll capsize your boat and spin you around and do all kinds of crazy things. So again, you want to keep an eye, make sure you're close to home. You also could run into fog. It could be a nice day, and all of a sudden, I was out with my friend years ago before GPS and whatnot, and we were fishing off Breezy Point. And I'm saying, hey, Bob, I says, I can't see the point anymore. I think the fog is coming in. No, it's okay. We're fishing. All of a sudden, the fog came in, and now we're out there in a little 19-foot boat with a compass. And thankfully, a friend came out, and he says, hey, Billy, can you get us back? Yeah, I have to check out a secret fishing spot first. And it was foggy out, so we knew we couldn't figure out where his spot was. And then he took us back, and once we got to the jetty, we knew how to get back into the Sheepshead Bay. But it can just come up on you, and you never know. So you have to keep an eye on the weather. You also have to make sure you have enough fuel in your boat. I think and your safety equipment. Make sure your safety equipment is in check.
All right. Now, the fuel, do you have to buy that at the marinas? Or could you go to a gas station and fill up?
Well, it depends. If you have a trailerable boat, I had a trailerable boat for 20-something years, and I used to go to the gas station and fill up. If it was, I used to go to Costco, my 17-footer on the trailer.
Cheaper.
A little cheaper, yeah. But when you have a big boat, you got to gas up in marinas. Some marinas won't allow you to bring gas cans down. And when you have a 200-gallon tank and 5-gallon gas can, ain't going to do you too much.
No, right.
There's another thing about that too. You can put fuel from land into your boat, but you can't put fuel from a marina into your car because it's a different tax charge on fuel.
It's the same gas, but a different tax.
Right.
The one thing about, I trailer mine, and so I do go to the most inexpensive gas, which on Staten Island is Costco.
Right.
But you have to use high test. You have to use the super. And what they're doing, that has 10% ethanol. What they're coming up with is they're going to have, they're trying to push through 15% ethanol. In automobiles.
Right.
And so if you take your boat to a land gas station and you put this 15% in, you're going to destroy that engine. Your warranty, if you have a brand new engine, the warranty just gets.
What I hear you saying is boating is a lot more complicated than what meets the eye.
Absolutely.
It is.
And you have to be up, and aware of the changes that are coming at you all the time. Like a good magazine is Boat US, and it's published every month, and it tells you exactly what's going to be legislations coming at you.
Well, we got you, Don. What is the safety equipment that?
Well, on federal law requires that you have a life preserver, a PFD, one for every person on board, a throwable. So that if somebody falls overboard, you can throw it and have a line to the to hold and so to get it. And then you need a fire extinguisher because you will be the first line of defense if something goes wrong. You can have an electrical fire, you can have a fuel fire, you can have a paper fire. So ideally, you need a fire extinguisher. Now, this fire extinguisher is very good. It will put out paper, oil, and electric, but this only lasts, you pull the pin, you aim at the base of the fire, and you squeeze. And that will only last 12 seconds because it empties itself. And so if you haven't been accurate at aiming that fire extinguisher, you're not going to put that fire out. So you need a number of these as a backup. You need, I have 3 on my 23-foot boat, just as a backup, because I am by myself. You call for assistance that you have a fire on board. The firemen are going to take at least an hour or 2 to get to you. So you are within 10 minutes, a fiberglass boat will go up, and you'll melt. So you have to be the first line of defense in a fire. So you're required to have a fire extinguisher. So that's a life preservers, fire extinguishers, and you need sound-producing equipment, something that can be heard. I won't push this. That will. This is.
You could push it.
No, it'll blow. It'll blow her out. Now this is a handheld as my backup. I have a horn. It's a push-button electric, and that works very nicely. But this is a backup. This is about $10. You can't go wrong for emergency backup. And then you have another requirement is every boater who has a motor is supposed to have, this is a nice little kit, have a flare system. It's what flares are. They are means for you to signal that you're in distress. And what you would do is you would pull the cap off, hit the striker, and then you would hold this out away from the boat to make the people around you know that you're in distress. Now, the important thing on these is they have a 3-year life expectancy. And right over here, it says expires in this date.
Right.
So this will be a primary reason for you to be pulled over and checked by the Coast Guard, the Harbor Patrol, the police, because these are your main recognition of if you're in trouble.
And if I may add to that, Don, that is one of the major findings we have when the Coast Guard Auxiliary does a vessel examination. We do the safety examination for both the private facilities and for commercial fishing boats. And in both cases, we'll find a lot of expired flares on boats. And it's very, very important to have them updated each year that they're due, because you can get moisture in them and they will not ignite out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if as a power squadron you find expired flares on a vessel, what do you do?
Well, we'll just advise them. We will not pass that vessel on a safety examination unless their flares are up to date. So we'll advise them. We will come back and re-inspect their facility when they have the correct equipment on board, and then generally they'll comply with that.
Yeah. Both the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Power Squadron, we do this for free. It's just to let the people know before they go out that they have all the federal required equipment on board. That's all we're doing. We're trying to make their day safe, and we can tell them that, oh yeah, it's this is expired. But they don't have to listen to us. They can go out.
That's the point I was leading up to.
But if they do go out and the Coast Guard comes along, or the Harbor Patrol or a police enforcement group come in and they do an inspection, you're required to allow them to do an inspection. And if they find that you don't have the proper flares or they're expired, they can they'll terminate your day. They will send you back to your docks, to the nearest dock, to get you off the water, and then they'll charge you, give you a fine of $250 to $500. So it's not worth doing it. You just get your flares. The flares are $34 for a set of 3 or 4, and you just replace them every 4 years. Now, what the Coast Guard has approved just this year is this is a new electronic
Flare, I guess.
And what you do is you just hold this. It's blinking, and what you would do is you would hold it over your head, or you would tie this to a stick to raise it up as high as you can to say that this is an emergency. I have an emergency. Come and help me. This is the latest, and all you have to do with this is every year change the batteries. They're 2D cell batteries.
Okay. Now, we were talking in the green room before. During daylight, that seems like it would be not effective.
Right. What this does is it lets you get past. You have your required equipment on board.
Okay.
But these flares as backups. This is an orange flare. This will blow orange smoke. This is a light flare. This is a much brighter one. All of
This is
these,
for daytime.
Yeah.
The orange smokers would be a daytime.
and all of
flare.
these are very important. We also have, for a daytime operation, I'm going to pass that over. This is a flag that is on,
There you go.
that you would hold up.
Okay.
And this is a daytime marker to tell you
Distress,
that
yeah.
you have distress.
And that, by the way, is an international sign of distress. So a commercial freighter or something coming from another country sees that, they know that that vessel is in distress and needs assistance.
Yeah. It's just another method of letting people know that you have a problem on board to,
Those markings
resolve.
in the middle of the flag, they represent anything?
That's part of the international distress
Okay.
signal.
Yeah, go back to what Don said a moment ago about the fire extinguishers. With boating, always think redundancy. Always think redundancy. If your boat requires one fire extinguisher, you have more than one. Your boat requires a certain number of flares, maybe you should think about putting some more on your boat. Always think redundancy, because something can always happen. When a car breaks down, you can pull over to the side and wait for help. Your boat breaks down, you're in the middle of could be in the middle of anywhere, and
Right.
you have a problem. Okay, think redundancy. Radios, compasses, all these things. A lot of boats have more than one.
And if I may just
well,
again
we're not-
interject on that fire extinguisher comment, a lot of boaters fail to realize when those fire extinguishers stay in their boat for several years,
Right.
the contents of that fire extinguisher tend to settle to the bottom. What they should do every year, turn them upside down and shake them,
You shake.
and get the internal chemicals mixed up again, so that when you do have to activate it, it does.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home.
Also-
See, I have that extinguisher at
Right.
home.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and...
You need to shake it, even in the home.
Right.
Also, on the bottom is a date. I don't have my glasses. This one's 08.
Okay.
Usually, these fire extinguishers only are good for
A couple of years.
a couple of years. The reason why I brought this is an out-of-service one, but it's a good demonstrator. It's still holding pressure. It's the arrow's in the green.
Right.
Means it's fully functional, but it's 10 years old, and so it's time to change.
Dennis, when you're fueling your vessel, do you have any
Procedure?
safety practices?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the probably one of the dangerous parts of boating. Make sure you properly fuel your boat. Pull up to a fuel dock, let's say. You're going to first of all, if you're a smoker, you're not smoking at this time. No smoking on the boat.
I would hope not.
Extinguishes the flames, right? Turn off the engine. You're at the dock. Close all hatches. That's one of the most important things, because fuel vapors, especially gasoline vapors, are heavier than oxygen, and they'll tend to, as you're fueling, the vapors will go into the boat, down into the cabin, into your bilge, and will collect down there. So you close all hatches. Make sure everything's sealed, so these fumes don't get down there. You have they'll hand you the fuel hose. They're not going to do it for you. They'll hand it to you, and you open your cap. Obviously, make sure it's the fuel cap, not your water or somewhere else. People have put fuel in their fishing rod holders, okay, and fill their bilge with fuel, not realizing what they're doing. Talk about accidents. Ground the fuel nozzle to the fill cap. You should also do this. This is what I do on my boat. I have these fuel pads. These that can soak up fuel if you need to. Take one of those pads, you cut a hole in it, in the middle of it, you lay it over your fuel opening. Now put the hose in there. Any spill, anything that comes out will now be absorbed by the pad. Okay, so you're avoiding spillage, and that is a big thing with the Coast Guard, to avoid fuel spills. All right, they don't like that. The next thing you should really know, and again, this is what you have to know about boating. how much fuel does your tank take? Oh, I'm not really sure, 10, 20 gallons. You should know that, because now when you're filling the tank, before you fill, you should realize, I'm half full, so I need 10 gallons. Let's say it's a 20-gallon tank. You have a fuel gauge. As you're filling, stop, check the gauge. Stop, check the gauge. You don't want to overfill, because it's going to come out and go into the water, and you're going to have another problem with that. Then you've completed your fueling. Take the nozzle out, put the cap on, return the hose to the dock. Open up the hatches now. Turn your blower on. These boats with the motors have blowers. Let the blower run for 5 minutes. Make sure it's ventilated. Any fumes that possibly got into the engine area are ventilated. The other thing is, stick your nose down there. See if you smell fuel. Make sure it's all fine. And then you can start your engine, and you can take off. If you've spilled fuel on those pads have to be taken off and put onto the dock and disposed of in a container on the dock there. That would be properly for fuel pads. And then you're on your way, safely on your way with a full tank of gas or diesel, depending on what your boat is, and you're fine.
Yeah. Now, let's say the average tank is what, 10, 20?
No.
I got 221 gallons.
Mine holds 300.
300?
Yeah.
How long will that last you, 300 gallons?
Now you go into a different phase of this here, okay? Depends on how, but you have to know what the consumption of your boat is, okay? So, like from my boat, I have a trawler, okay? So, a 36-foot trawler. My boat doesn't, they're not very fast boats. They do like 17, 12, 10 to, my boat's a little faster, 10 to 17 knots, okay? I know that my boat consumes 5 gallons of fuel an hour at 10 knots. Okay, so now how far does 10 knots take you? You have to depending on the trip you're going on, you have to figure that ahead of time. So let's say let's reduce it down to a smaller thing. Let's say your boat, the trip you're going on, it's going to consume 20 gallons of fuel to get to point B. Okay, all right. And when we teach the boating course, we teach what's called the 1/3 rule. You would need 20 gallons to get there, 20 gallons to come back, okay, and 20 gallons in reserve. So that's 60 gallons of fuel you have to have on your boat. Now, well, my boat only holds 40 gallons. You can't go. It's not. You don't have enough fuel for your boat, because that 20 gallons in reserve is for emergency purposes. Something happens. You have to. Maybe the weather comes in, and now you have to divert to another dock somewhere, and it's a longer run, and you need that fuel. So 1/3 rule is always applied for.
So if you want to take that trip, like you said earlier, up to Saugerties.
Right. You plan it. You plan where your gas stops are going to be. You always want to have enough in your tank to get to that next gas station or marina,
right,
and still have a nice reserve.
So boating could be very expensive then with the fuel.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's an expensive hobby. But it's a very rewarding friend. The people on the waterfront are just terrific. You can go anywhere up and down the coast, and you meet some of the nicest people on boats. I mean, and even if you're just sitting at the dock, you just, hey, how are you? And it's a family. And that's the nice part about boating. It's just a lot of nice people who like to be around boats, around the water, and some boats, they do leave the docks, and then you have boats that don't leave the docks.
Right.
And those guys, they bought the boat for a summer home.
Well, I noticed down in Nichols, if you go into Nichols, there's a lot of barbecues on it looks like
There's
they never leave the dock. They just go down there.
It's like a second home.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of partying.
Right, like a second home.
Jim, tell us about the VHS radio. Why is it important to have it if you have a cell phone?
Oh, the VHS radio is an absolutely must on a boat. Say I'm out on the water and I break down. or I'm taking on water and I'm going to sink. So I can get on my cell phone, I can call Don, but Don's going to say, sorry, Jim, I'm upstate New York right now, so he can't help me. Maybe I'll call Dennis. Dennis says, well, by the time I get to my trawler and get out to you, it's going to be too late. With a VHF radio, you talk to everyone. You know, it goes out for like 20 miles all around. Depends on how tall your boat is. If you have a sailboat with the antenna on the top, you have very good range. A power boat with an 8-foot antenna, you still go out a few miles and you could talk to somebody. And, you know, they could be like a half a mile away and come and assist you. It's almost one of the duties of a boater to aid someone in distress on the water. And it's a must. You can call the Coast Guard. There's no license required. There used to be a license years ago for you need a radio operator, but not anymore. Only if you go out of the country to Canada or maybe the Bahamas or something, you would need a license. But you don't really need a license. And all the new radios have this new thing called digital selective calling. It's a great, great tool. It takes the search out of search and rescue when the Coast Guard has to come and get you. What happens is, all the new radio, this is a handheld radio, and this is very good to have as a backup. It's about 5 or 6 watts of power out. The range isn't as good. When you have a ship radio that's mounted on your dashboard, that has 25 watts of power, and you know it broadcasts a lot more. But they have this digital selective calling, and a little button on the side. You lift it up, and you press it in for 5 seconds, and it sends out a signal. And anyone who has one of these radios, your radio starts beeping. And it goes on to the Coast Guard station. Now, to make this work, there's a couple of things required. You must have an MMSI number. Now, I had to write it down because I only call it MMSI, but it's the Maritime Mobile Service Identity. That's the formal name for it. And it's very simple to get. You can go online to Boat US or USPS.org. That's the Power Squadron, and there's a link there. And you click on that, and it's a form to fill out. Your name, your address, your registration, your boat, description of your boat, what kind of boat you have, a couple of close contacts, maybe my wife, my brother, or somebody. And what happens is you press submit, and they send you a 9-digit number, like a cell phone number. And what you do is you program this into your radio. And you have to read the directions because, you know, I know guys don't like to read the directions, but you read the directions because every radio is a little different to program this in. And once you program that in, when you set off your distress signal, the Coast Guard will know exactly whose boat it is and the size of the boat and what they're looking for. Now, the other key component of this is GPS. When they first came out, you had to tie in your radio into your GPS so that it would also gives your radio is picking up your GPS signal from your GPS, and it gives the Coast Guard the exact longitude and latitude of where you are. So they don't have to search for you, they know exactly where you are. Now, when I got my first boat, my new boat 10 years ago, I had the GPS and I had the radio. And the radio wasn't picking up the GPS signal from the GPS. I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. After 3 weeks and reading the manual, I found that I had to go to the GPS and turn on Comlink 1, and then everything worked, but it took a while to figure it out. But the new radios now automatically most of them come with a GPS built into them, so you don't have to do that. It's automatically into the radio. I mean, they have GPS on your cell phone, so putting them in here is like a little chip or something. And so the radio goes out, gives the Coast Guard your GPS location, and they know exactly where you are. It sends it out to the other boats around you that have digital selective calling, and people can come and help you. And you would use this only in a life-threatening situation, such as a boat fire, your boat is sinking, maybe someone had a heart attack. Maybe severely bleeding, you cut your leg or you broke your leg. You really wouldn't send it out if you got a fish hook in your finger. You're not going to die from that. That's not important.
I see, yes.
But it's something, major life-threatening situation, that is a Mayday call. And that's what you would use, that's when you would use this digital, you would press your button to summon help for you in an urgent emergency.
Is that all the same in New Jersey, Alan?
It's international. Your signal actually goes up to a satellite in the United States, goes up to a satellite, and on the East Coast, it's sent down to Maryland. From Maryland, it's sent back to a local Coast Guard station, and it all happens in a matter of about 65 seconds.
How about drinking? Dennis, you want to take that one?
Yeah.
Alcohol. We know alcohol and boating don't mix.
Yeah, alcohol, yeah, right, exactly. Alcohol and boating do not mix. It's called BWI, boating while intoxicated. Like on land, it would be DWI, okay?
Yeah.
New York and New Jersey apply the same rules for a BWI, okay? If you were pulled over on land or on the water, and you took a breathalyzer test, it's the same thing in New York and New Jersey. 0.08 a reading would be considered, or above, would be considered being intoxicated. Okay. If it's the Marine Police, the Coast Guard, and that happens, you're subject to arrest. You're going to get a fine, and your boat's going to be confiscated. So it is not worth it.
Now, Alan, let's say I'm out there and I'm obviously under the influence, and you're out there with your vessel. What would you do about that?
If we observe, let me just make something clear. The Coast Guard Auxiliary is the volunteer uniform branch. We come under the Department of Homeland Security. We have all the same authority that the regular Coast Guard does, with the exception of law enforcement. So if we saw a violation such as that on the water, we would then radio it into the Coast Guard station. And generally when we're on patrol, those are some of the things we look for. And the Coast Guard would then send a boat out to respond out to them.
Okay, so you won't do any summary action to stop me?
We're only there to observe and report.
Okay. Chris, let me ask you something. Navigation, how do you
navigate a boat? Or
Yeah.
well, you have to have some tools.
Okay. How do you find your way in the water, navigation?
Well, you have buoys in the water that you have to follow when you're going along. Charts.
Okay.
That's part of the training that both the Power Squadron and the Auxiliary provide to boaters is navigation. And much like a road map, you have road maps on the water, your red and green buoys to identify where the channels are. They're numbered so you can tell where you're at by looking at a chart and looking at the number on the buoy. You know when you're coming back in from the ocean, you're going to keep that red buoy on your right and your green buoy on your left.
Jump in, Tom.
And you'll stay between the two. You'll stay in a navigable channel. So there are safety rules on the water under navigation, which will help you with that.
Okay.
All right. Like a road map on land, this is a chart, and this is the blue and white area is where the water is, and this area here is land. So what you need to do is you need to find these little marks along here, or what's called your buoy system, usually coming from the sea. Red, right, returning. Keep the red buoy on the right side when returning from sea. And you follow that rule all the way in to your home destination. On the chart, you have little numbers here. Those are the depths of...
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah.
Those were the depths of the water. So you can see in this white area, it's anywhere from 23 feet deep to 69 feet deep. In the blue area, this is shows the contour here shows it's about 15 feet. So all this area in blue is where it goes less than 15 feet. So if you're a large boat that draws a lot of water, you want to be able to say, okay, can I go from point A to point B? How deep is the water going to be? And you just look at your chart and you can tell that it's, I take 6 feet of water. I should be fine, except, over here by the islands, between Hoffman and Swinburne Island, there are rocks. Hoffman and Swinburne are man-made islands.
Right.
And there's a reef, like a little rock reef. At a low tide, it's about 1.5 feet deep. So if you drive along at a high speed, you're going to rip everything that's underneath. It's going to get ripped off.
So what is the average draft for an average vessel?
A powerboat is usually 2 feet up to maybe 4,
right.
and then a sailboat can be 6 to 8 feet.
Sure, yeah, depending on the
6 to 8
size of the
feet
boat.
deep.
Yeah.
And
So you could get in trouble if you're in the wrong
absolutely,
area.
Right.
absolutely. Like if you're over by Sandy Hook,
Right.
and you go into Sandy Hook Bay, there are areas over there that are shallow. There's little pockets of sand, and if you don't follow the channel, you go 5 feet over to the one side or the other, you're aground.
You'll see sailboats over by the Oakwood treatment plant,
Right.
sailing parallel to the beach, and they don't realize that it's very shallow there. That there's a discharge pipe from the Oakwood treatment plant with a big hump of sand on it. You're sailing at low tide, you run right aground on it. So you have to know where you're sailing. You need local knowledge. It's so important for sailors going down the Jersey coast, here in New York Bay, the Lower Bay. You must have that local knowledge, and that's all part of boating education.
Now, what about security after 9/11, Homeland Security? Alan, you want to help us
Well,
with that?
pretty much it's common sense when you're boating. You don't want to go near a secure area. I know you come over to the New Jersey side, you have the Earl Naval Station over there. Ammunition ships come in and out of there. That's a tight security area. You don't want to go in that type of area. You don't want to go near any of the emergency response areas, the Coast Guard stations, unless it's an emergency. You need room for them to operate, and any secure area.
If I can add to that, the Earl's Pier, it's a great fishing over there. If you can get inside that security zone, there's a lot of fluke laying in there because nobody can fish there. And I was fishing over there last summer, and I was just following the line between the two buoys. They have like buoys all around.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the wind changed there after a while, and the current, I started drifting inside, and here comes the black boat with the guys on it with the machine guns. And I just put my hands up. I says, I know, I'll move. And they started laughing, and they knew, and it's something, you have to be aware of on your chart. You just go in there, and, the guys, they come out with big guns. Also, you have to worry about, you can't anchor up under the bridge. The Verrazano Bridge had those rocks under there. It's great striped bass fishing, and you can't go there anymore. If you're over there, they'll come and chase you or whatever. They'll board your boat and try to find out who you are. Right. You have to stay 100 yards away from cruise ships, commercial ships. Sometimes you'll see the Coast Guard boat escorting the Staten Island ferry back and forth. It helps to keep your eyes open. If you see somebody that hanging around by the bridge that looks kind of suspicious, let somebody know. Make a call to the Coast Guard or the local police.
Even the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, that's very
there's a secure area around the Statue of Liberty now, and you cannot get close anymore. So there.
And it used to be where you could go right up to it.
Right.
Yeah, I used to anchor up right behind,
Right.
and we'd have our lunch there, have a nice picnic lunch in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty.
Can't do that no more.
now.
You can't do it anymore. No. Things have changed.
Yeah.
Really have. Yeah.
Well, unfortunate, but
That's
I guess
life.
in view of what's going on in this world today,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to, you're making adjustments to the situations that are there.
Right. Exactly.
Does somebody want to tell me what type of vessels should you stay away from, stay clear when we're out there?
There's a number of things, especially if you're a power boater, okay? Because you have more control over your boat than other types of boats. For example, like small craft boats, canoes, kayaks, rowboats. They're all out there, maybe by us in Great Kills Harbor. They're out there, fishing, and a lot of them just, they fish off kayaks now. So they're out there, and you're coming in the harbor. And this is one of the important things. Every harbor has this now. Come in slow with no wake, 5 miles an hour. Every harbor around here is 5 mile an hour thing. These kayaks are oftentimes they're in the channel. You they really should be out of the channel. You know, they'll keep channel's kind of a busy area, but they go in. You got to avoid them. You slow down. Maybe even put your boat in neutral as you're cruising by them, not to upset them. Larger vessels. Now you're coming into Princess Bay Channel. You have container ships. You have oil tankers coming in to Princess Bay Channel, going around Staten Island and up the Arthur Kill. They cannot move out of the channel. You have to avoid them, okay? You can maneuver, they cannot. They'll run you over. They have no choice. They cannot get out of the channel. Tugs, barges, they're all over the lower bay and over by Jersey. And also fishing boats. Fishing boats that are anchored out there or maybe drifting. Just a nice calm day, they're out there drifting with the current. And you're in the power, you avoid them. You stay out of their way.
If I could add to that, one of the things when I teach the seamanship class, I tell my students, stay away from tugboats and barges. If you see a tugboat at night with three lights on the mast, it means he's towing. And the tow barge could be a half a mile behind them. And they have large howitzers, steel cables that they tow the barge with. And if you think, well, the tugboat's gone, I got room to pass before the barge comes, you're going to run into that steel cable. Either it's going to take your head off if you go too high, or it'll lay into the water. You go off with your boat's going to get snagged on the cable, and the barge can't
destroy your
stop.
boat, yeah.
And there was many fatalities that happened that way.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, stay away from the tugboats. Just go. There's a lot of water out there. Go somewhere else.
Well, I want to thank you. It's very, very informative. Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of Power Squadron, how do they do that?
Well, Staten Island Power Squadron has a website. It's statenislandpowersquadron.org. You can go online and see that. You can call me. My name is Don Heap. My phone number is 718-356-5952. Call me between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m.
I'm glad you told me. Some people will call after.
I know that, yes.
We also have our national website, USPS.org. If you go .com, you get the post office. But USPS.org will put you to the National Power Squadron website, and you can find all kinds of information, especially where the boating courses are. And either in New York or New Jersey or wherever you are in the country, take a boating class. It's very, very important for your safety and mine.
How about New Jersey, Alan?
Well, New Jersey, New York, it's all the same with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. You go to uscoastguardaux.com. It'll bring up the Coast Guard Auxiliary sites. You can find a local flotilla, whether it's Staten Island, New Jersey, wherever, and they'll have a contact information. They'll usually have a Facebook page or a website for their flotilla.
So if somebody wanted to reach you in New Jersey, that's how they would do it?
Yes, they call me directly. I'm going to be Vice Commander-elect for Division 7, 5th Northern Region, starting in January, and I'll be overseeing about 5 flotillas. So anybody who wants to contact us and have a specific area they're interested in, we can direct them to the appropriate flotilla.
This is a vest that everyone should have. It's a Type 3. It's very comfortable. You'll see that it has plenty of space under the arms. It's comfortable to wear all times. If you're having inclement weather of any type, you put this on immediately. Or if you have an emergency, you put this on immediately. This is going to keep you afloat in case you fall in the water. This is just one type of life preserver. This is a Type 2 life preserver that comes with, if you buy a boat, a brand new boat, they will give you 6 or 8 of these in a very nice kit. These are very functional, they're very good. Problem is, people just don't like to wear them. They look funny in them. Then we have Now, this is a life preserver that is just fine. It's brand new. It's in the package, but it's not legal. Anytime you have a life preserver on board your boat, it has to be out of the package and ready for service. This life preserver is one of the latest. This is an inflatable life preserver. You put it on, and you can pull the little yellow lolly, and this will inflate. This is becoming very popular with fishermen and everyone. You wear it all the time. You don't. It's not cumbersome or anything, but you can always pull the yellow lolly, and it will inflate. There are also some that have an automatic inflator that when it gets wet, it inflates. This life preserver is a throwable. I have a rope on it because when you throw it, you hold on to one end, and you can pull the person back to your boat. This way, it makes it easy, because many times when a person falls in the water, and by the time you get back to them to rescue them, they're exhausted. So it's very hard to swim with it. So you have the line on to help pull them in. This is an old Mae West type life preserver. This is very functional, but right now it's torn. So this is absolutely useless. If you have any kind of life preserver that has a tear or it's worn, throw it out and get a new one. And then finally, life preservers come in different sizes. This is an infant life preserver. This is for infants. It goes underneath, between their legs. It zips up. It's very comfortable for them. And also, there's a whistle on it. For in case they start drifting away, they can blow on it. The life preservers come in infants, 30 to 50 pounds, and then a 50 to 90 pound life preserver for children. And then anything over 90 pounds, it's an adult life preserver.
A child on board a vessel or boat,
Yes.
Should have that on at all times.
Is required to wear it at all times, even if they go on the docks. If they go down onto the docks, they must wear a life preserver.
Right.
If I may, when
Yeah.
my son James was an infant and Jim and I took him on the boat, he was in the infant seat, and we had one. It was very cumbersome, but he was safe because he had it on.
And they have a handle on the top. You just pick them up like this and put them on the boat. It's great.
Easy carrying case.
And you'll note a lot of those infant and child youth jackets, it's designed to keep their head afloat too if they go in the water. Possibly hit their head going off the side of the boat, they're unconscious. Those life jackets are designed to keep their head out of the water, prevent them from drowning. That's
Very
important.
interesting.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk about a float plan?
Yes, excuse me. One of the important things which we didn't mention earlier in the show is when you leave the dock and go out for the day, it's important to have a float plan. And a float plan is much like a flight plan that a pilot would file with their terminals before they leave the airport. A float plan does the same thing. It tells somebody who you are, what type of boat you have, how many people are on board, what your destination is, when you plan on coming back, emergency contact phone numbers, your boat's name so they can call you on the radio, or a cell phone number they can attempt to contact you on. And you file that with either a family member or somebody at the marina or dock that you're leaving with. So in the event that you don't return on schedule, somebody there says, hey, Don didn't get back on time, we're worried about him, let's check the float plan, and they can then notify the appropriate authority, either the Marine Police or the Coast Guard, to go out and start the search and rescue procedure. So it's very important to have one of these. Keep one on the dashboard of your vehicle, hand one to a friend, a family member, and somebody at the dock. So it's a backup plan to protect you.
Well, you've been watching Safe Boating. Very interesting for me. I learned a lot today just listening, and I'd like to thank Don, Dennis, Chris, Jim, and Alan. for bringing this to us and giving us so much valuable information that we learned. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Pleasure.